my husband's family.
Might do a year.
Yeah, they're nice.
Looks
Yeah.
really good to me.
A lot of them have gotten a little trail.
Yeah, yeah. Those are cute. Well, both of my grandkids went to in Waldorf school, so every year they have
Outdoor school.
outdoor overnight for a couple of nights things. They got dresses. My years. And my son-in-law is better. And by the last.
And so,
I'm not. So it's
see the same thing. For different
so for the 8th grade trip, my daughter, they were combining about a camping trip and sites. So my daughter's a roommate. You're coming for me.
Well, you know, but.
Hey, good, how are you?
My daughter did Girl Scouts for a little while.
Excellent.
I didn't have to think about them.
Where are you from? Oh, okay. Oh.
They're high needs all the time.
Jealous, you're
On the East Coast, my sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's really cool.
they do it.
Yeah. How
They do.
long do you get to stay in town?
We're actually,
It is.
a few hours, yeah, we got it.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And see, that's what we have to go.
Can't find it there.
I know.
As a matter of fact, I went when I was little, when I left, and then I'm sure I'm just
So,
Anybody?
That's way forward.
How you guys doing?
Good, how are you? Good. I'm Andrea.
I'm Joe.
Nice to meet you, Joe.
See, I've got the issue. Got my license in Washington,
Okay.
and so I called tech support, and they say, well, as long as your circle goes into Washington, you get leads from there.
Your last name is Nelson, right?
Yeah.
You're already on my radar. I'm already dealing with all your stuff.
Oh, we were
How's
in the
that?
office on Tuesday.
We were here on Tuesday. We
Oh.
talked to Eric about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're trying to figure out what's going on, so it's not.
You know, I was on hold.
Yeah.
Is it Catholic? I
But, it's even, I just have,
Yeah. Yeah.
and my score's like 117.
Yeah, you're super high, so that's why we were trying to figure out what was going on. So I have tech support just
I
looking
mean, I
into it.
kind of moved my radius point up into Washington so that, you know, I don't go so far
Yeah, so
west
it's
and
more-
south
yeah.
where traffic is really bad.
Right.
So that may have, but I'm still got most of the Portland area.
Right. Yeah, we saw that you didn't have any Washington leads yet, so we're gonna take a peek and see what's going on.
Yeah. Are you using the new, there's an agent inbox feature? There's an agent inbox feature that came out a little while ago. Are you using that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll be doing it today, but it does affect your scores as well. So I don't know exactly what the weighting is for what leads you should expect on these, but it does contribute to that. So if you're not using it,
I was expecting a lot more calls.
yeah.
Now I'm not getting any.
Well, that is what's, yeah, usually very heavily
Usually the
weighted.
highest is,
But this inbox feature is really different.
hey, I'm sorry, we lost.
Yeah, and then so we do try to call them back.
You just get them right there.
But it's in the same section where the rest of the
I understand. Yeah, right, you know, right, just here, but, yeah. Sorry about that. And like I said, they're normally supposed to text, but sometimes it.
The algorithm is in there.
What do you do?
Maybe the person, maybe there's not people
Yeah.
that actually make that decision.
Right.
But the algorithm is
Yes, it can be.
Yep.
Yeah. It's all algorithms to run, so.
It's in between.
Once it closes, it's
Yeah.
kind of medium
It's a medium, yeah, compared to others, yeah.
you know, that referral.
It was part of the organization that we'll get years, years ago.
Yeah, I would say medium to medium hot. It's the best way I can describe it.
there's a lead, we just hit that, and then.
Right, that's what I heard, yes,
So
yes.
the one, you want to be the skin like for the
How are you?
Yeah, they have to, yeah. Well, the rules, it depends, because like, when I started, the doctor was asking your department manager, do you require to someday, go something else? Some parks require common law, or the board 7 days, so basically, they have to give them a 7-day notice that they're noticing the intent itself, where they're going to list it. And this is on the common law part, and then that will activate the pre-listing inspection that the parks do. So you might want to ask to have a sheriff to sell or require for the sellers.
So I am still actually.
Within the 3 years, well, that was
Showed him as a house, and then we started talking further, and so we were, you know, and I was like, duh, I should. Yeah, I normally do too, but it was like, I just told crazy, right?
I mean, we can even have like a
And
checklist.
then, so we're still actually kind of working through it.
We don't have to tell them which one just because they have other reasons to tell them that, what I told agents, because it's just
Yeah, so.
we don't want them to go and try to take that kind of thing. Is what you want to do is that.
I thought I tried to sign up for this, but I might not have, because I don't see the app.
I just want to make sure that I understand your purpose. Your rules are.
That's my whole thing.
So I just want to be able to have this checklist, questions, so that way I
So I'm gonna let you answer.
because I'm marketing this company,
Yeah.
I know exactly.
I'm in New York.
You see, so it's like gonna be like a different circle. And this is the thing, just because they have the name and all the money and it was their
We were just waiting for Eric to make sure everyone's had a chance to get in here. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think we'll round him up.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Eric was going to be a little bit late.
Yeah.
I just thought that in a few minutes, but I'll just stop.
Yeah.
So there's stuff had crashed this morning, so that's.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll.
Oh, do you want to see
Yes, now, exactly, and then you just put this.
Sorry, actually, something else.
I have never seen
Sure, yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure how many have signed up, so yeah, if you wanna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Yeah, that's totally
We're already
fine.
doing
Yep,
this thing?
we're
Okay.
good to go.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, there wasn't a registration.
All right, good morning, everyone.
This one.
So we're here from OPCITY. We're going to talk to you about how OPCITY works and everything like that, but just a little bit of background about ourselves first and about what we're doing.
We started.
Yeah, we'll get started here. So
they're getting started, everybody.
yeah. So OPCITY started about 2.5 years ago, startup company. We haven't had a lot of training or anything like that in the past. So what my team's doing, we're actually coming out in the field on site. We're also doing remote work with brokers and agents to help you understand how OPCITY works. There's kind of a lot of Oz the Great and Powerful behind the curtain going on with OPCITY. So I want to just pull some of that back and let you know how our dispatch process works, how leads are sent out to all of you. And then we'll also go through best practices with OPCITY. It's a very performance-based system, so I want to make sure you know what's going into your score, your rank, and how you receive leads with the platform. So my name's Ian Downs. I'm from Calgary. This is Andrea Caudry. She's from Vancouver, the Canadian version, not the Washington version. And then we've got Donnie Salas over there. Donnie's from our Austin office, which is where OPCITY was started. You may be asking why the Canadian connection. So I'll give you the quick rundown on that. News Corp purchased Move, which operates Realtor.com, as well as OPCITY. And Move has Move Canada, which operates Top Producer, which is where Andrea and I started. So kind of a large octopus of companies there, but that's where we're connected into it, and that's why we're Canadian. I'll try and keep the aboots and the doots out of the way today, but I don't really have a strong accent, so hopefully it's not too distracting or anything like that. So the agenda for our training today, we're going to go over the online lead landscape, so what's been changing into the real estate industry, specifically with digital real estate, and why is OPCITY positioned the way it is. So we'll talk through that. We'll then go through best practices on the platform. We'll talk about our new tools, and we'll end off with additional resources that you can use to get started and help out on the platform. You've also got handouts as well, so you can take a look at the handouts and take those home with you. They just go through settings, some of what we'll talk about today for how the algorithm works and how the dispatch process functions. So you can definitely read through that, but it should be pretty consistent with what we're going to talk about through the class today. So starting out, let me just pop up a whole bunch of stats for you here. How's the real estate landscape been changing? We've had 44% of all home buyers looking online as their first step in the process, compared to 17% that start with a real estate agent. 99% of millennials search online websites, compared to 90% of older boomers and 70% of the silent generation. Buyers that used an agent typically spent about 3 weeks searching before they contacted that agent. And 50% of recent buyers found their home through the internet, compared to 32% 10 years ago and 8% in 2001. So lots of dense statistics there, but hopefully nothing new for you. What it's really speaking to is just the real estate industry is changing, right? More and more consumers are coming online. They're starting their home search process online. They're going to Realtor.com, other large portals. They're connecting with listings and agents through that. And the real estate industry is just changing with consumers going through those portals first. So everyone's trying to figure out how that's going to work and what that ultimately is going to mean for the real estate industry in general. What we also see when we're looking at online leads, looking back just a few years to 2011, 4.5 million leads were generated, 4.8 million homes for sale. Looks nice and pretty on our scatter graph because it's all balanced out here. But you flash forward to 2018 and we've got 88.5 million leads generated to 5.5 million homes for sale. So thoughts from the room on what's driving that huge explosion in online leads?
So is
Facebook?
that, there's 100 leads generated for every one home sale almost?
Basically, yeah.
Or
Or even
consumers are inquiring on multiple sites? Or they're unserious consumers are inquiring?
Yeah, all of that for sure. So Facebook, consumers inquiring on multiple sites, and looky-loo shoppers, right? What is partially driving it is organic lead growth. So like we saw a little bit earlier, more and more consumers are starting their whole home search process online. So as time goes on, there's more unique leads out there. But this is also a lot of duplication. So you do have consumers that go around to multiple websites submitting multiple inquiries, right? We've all experienced it with online leads. You pick up an online lead and they've inquired on 10 different properties, and those 10 different properties have gone to 10 different agents with 10 different brokerages, and all of those people are trying to reach out. So a common thing you'll run across with online leads, you'll even be talking to them and they'll be saying, wow, my phone's ringing with a whole bunch of different calls and texts right now from other agents. That's because they've kind of created the problem themselves by submitting so many inquiries. That's a problem for everyone, including large websites like Realtor.com. What we can see with lead qualification, conversion, and consumers' responses, lead qualification rate actually drops by 80% if the lead's contacted in 10 minutes versus 5 minutes. And on the flip side of that, it's increasing by 391% if you're contacting within the first minute. So you've got a way higher chance of reaching and converting that lead if you contact them basically immediately. And that's because consumers are typically going to work with the first agent they speak with. So it's a really odd behavior for a lot of people. You would think consumers are shopping around and looking for kind of the best agent who fits their needs, but 67% actually work with the first person they speak with. I just bought a home this year, my first home, and that was something I was guilty of as well. I worked with the very first agent I spoke with, so I'm part of the statistic and part of the problem, but it does happen. So what you should really gather though from these statistics, you've got so many agents reaching out on the same online leads. You've pretty much got to have that instant, immediate response to even get in touch with them. And then you've got to convert and qualify them and ultimately close them. An additional part of the challenge is kind of what we've branded as lead fatigue. What happens is because you've got this experience working online leads, I'm sure you may have experienced it yourselves if you have a lot of online opportunities, but you get tired working all of those raw opportunities and cold calling all of those leads. Over half the agents we surveyed in this study were unable to connect with the consumer that submitted the inquiry. So most of the time you're reaching out and you're not even getting in contact with the lead. In addition to that, research shows it takes between 6 and 9 attempts to reach 90% of the consumers. So most agents are doing that about 1.5 times before actually giving out. So you'll reach out once, maybe twice, and then after that you're kind of dropping off with online leads. And that's entirely expected, right? If you've got so much duplication out there and if leads are submitting inquiries on so many different properties, it's really hard to maintain your follow-up with all of that. So these are all the problems the real estate industry is being faced with, and I say problems, but really we can just think of them as changes, and they're going to continue changing as time goes on and more people continue searching online and starting their home search online. So OPCITY is really positioned as a solution to help with a lot of this. Our goal with OPCITY is to make the process of working online leads a lot easier so that you can focus on selling homes. Ultimately, we understand you don't want to be reaching out to 100 different raw lead opportunities when maybe only 20% you get in contact with, and then only 5 of those you actually qualify and convert. It's just a lot of extra work for you to go through all of those different inquiries out there. So how does OPCITY work at a very high level? You may already know this, especially if you've been using our platform already, but I just want to give you the cliff notes and then we'll dive into things deeper here. So we've got a team of CSR representatives. What they do is when a consumer submits an inquiry online or when they're calling or anything like that, it goes through our CSR team, and we've got a number of different scripts and processes we follow to determine whether that consumer is a motivated buyer and seller. If they are motivated to buy or sell, that's when we hand them off to you. So we're trying to weed out all of the window shoppers, looky-loos, duplicates, already working with another agent. I just had a question, this is my neighbor's house and I want to know if they're going to be able to put a pool in next to it, right? We want to weed all of that out for you so that you're not sifting through it. Once we've connected them with you, you've got your OPCITY app. So who has the OPCITY app and who uses that? Okay, perfect. So we provide you with all those tools to update your leads and manage that lead through the pipeline. Our team's reaching out within about 4 seconds. So when a consumer submits an inquiry that OPCITY's managing and servicing, we're reaching out on average about 4 seconds after they submit that inquiry. So you're on Realtor.com, you submit an inquiry on a Portland listing, you're probably going to get a call back from our team within that time period. That's happening 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So Thanksgiving Day comes around, you're submitting that inquiry, we're still reaching out and following up. Holidays, weekends, everything like that to make sure that you're getting responded to.
What does local time mean?
Yeah, local time means Pacific time for all of us, right? So leads should start at 8 a.m. And end around 9 p.m. It's not going to be 9 p.m. sharp. What happens is we can continue calling and reaching out to consumers up until 9 p.m. It's legal requirements in most areas that determine those hours. So if we've got someone on the line at 9 p.m., we'll be going through that screening process and we might refer them a little bit after. So you might still see leads 9:05, 9:10, 9:15 once we've got that initial call wrapped up.
So you could potentially get a call at around 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. Or thereafter a little bit. It should not be happening before 8 a.m. though, because that's really our kind of legally mandated start time for a lot of that.
Sure, thank you.
When our CSR team is going through and talking to leads, we have a very scripted process that we go through to determine if a consumer is a motivated buyer or seller. So the first thing, they've probably submitted an inquiry on a specific property. We're actually trying to find out what their profile would be. So you submitted an inquiry on this property, is that the neighborhood you're looking in? Are you looking at this zip or that zip? And we're gonna try and collect that and put that into their profile for you. We're looking at their price range as well. So you submitted an inquiry on a property at $350,000. Is $500,000 your maximum budget, or is $450,000? Where are you looking, and what price points are you open to look at? We're trying to find out your timeline to buy, sell, or lease. Are you looking at an immediate purchase? Are you looking 3 to 6 months down the road? We'll communicate all that to you when we dispatch the lead over. Self-assessed credit level is an important one, and there's often a lot of questions around how we do this, so I'll just be very transparent with you. Our CSR team are not licensed real estate agents, right? We're not realtors. We're not able to ask a lot of in-depth questions about a consumer's finances. That's just legal requirements where we're not able to do it over the phone. What we can ask is, are you pre-qualified or not? So yes or no answer, and it's based off, first of all, the consumer's understanding of what pre-qualification is and whether they are indeed pre-qualified or not. And we can ask what their self-assessed credit level is. So is it poor, fair, good, excellent? We'll give them kind of that scale to put themselves in. A lot of the times, I'm sure we know, consumers don't have an accurate view of what their credit level is. So we'll communicate that to you, but you will likely need to do some more questioning about a consumer's finances and get to kind of the heart of the matter after you get them on the phone. We're also not using credit level or pre-qualification as a bar to speak with an agent. So if I'm not pre-qualified, but it seems like I'd probably be able to get pre-qualified, or I'm at least very motivated to do so or motivated to buy, we're still referring that out to you. So just because you're not pre-qualified isn't kind of the bar for entry for speaking with an agent. A lot of the time people want to talk about finances a little bit more in depth with their agent, understand that process, so that's why we'll be referring it out to you. And then finally, we're checking a consumer's availability to see property. So initial meetings are really important to us. We're going to go through that in detail during the rest of the presentation here. But setting up an initial meeting as soon as we've got the lead over to an agent is really important, and it's a really crucial component to converting the lead. So our dispatch process itself, this is kind of where Oz the Great and Powerful behind the curtain comes into play. How does this actually work, and how are we routing leads out to you? Our CSR rep, we've gone through that screening process, and we've determined this is a good consumer to refer out to you. At that point, we start sending alerts out that look like this. You're all probably aware of these from having participated on OPCITY. But what's actually happening, once we've built that consumer's profile, we basically find all of the agents that match that consumer's profile. So everyone who's eligible based off the settings you've got in your app. For instance, if you don't accept leads under $60,000, you're not going to be eligible for the lead, so you're not going to be queued up if they're looking under 60. We list everyone out who is eligible, and we rank them. So you're getting put into a list from top to bottom, most likely to convert that lead all the way to least likely to convert. And what we're doing at that point is staggering our dispatch. So we send it to the highest ranked agent first. They'll have exclusive access to the lead for a short time. Yeah.
Sorry, I messed up. The highest ranked agent is the one that's been selling.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, so we'll go through the main ones today. But primarily, just as a rule of thumb, we're looking for the person who's most likely able to close the lead. So that's how it's ranked. Yeah.
So if you're new having that app, you're going to be in the bottom two?
No. And I'll talk about that a little bit too. So we'll actually cover that one next. But what happens here, so our highest ranked agent, they get the lead first. They'll have a very short little time where it's an exclusive opportunity for them. It's really only a few seconds between it bouncing for more agents because we've got a lead on the line and we're trying to connect it with someone pretty quickly. If agent 1 doesn't claim the lead, we're adding agent 2, then agent 3. And during that process, everyone's sharing access. So agent 1, 2, and 3 in this example all share access to the lead right now. Any of them can claim it, and whoever gets it first is actually going to win the opportunity at this point. Let's say agent 3 picks it up. At this point, what's happened? Agent 3's won the lead. They're going to get the call transferred to them with the lead on the line. Agents 4 through 9 here, they were eligible for the opportunity. They never saw the notification come through though, so you're essentially none the wiser. Doesn't impact your score or anything like that you were eligible but weren't sent anything. Agents 1 and 2 though, they were sent something and they still have that notification on their phone. So something you've probably experienced with OPCITY, you click into the notification, you click to claim it, and it says the lead's already been picked up by another agent, right? It's gonna happen fairly frequently with how we do this dispatch. It's nothing to be discouraged by. What we do is track still how long it takes you to click into the notification and click to claim the lead. So assuming you're doing that quickly and consistently, that's still going to contribute positively towards your score, even if you don't win the opportunity. It can be frustrating though. What can end up happening, let's say agent 3 didn't claim it, but agent 1 did. Agent 3 is going to have received the alert, and when she clicked into it to claim it, it may have only been 1, 2, 3 seconds, and by the time she clicks in and claims it, agent 1's got it because agent 1 has had it for, let's say, 15 seconds at that point. So because of that, what you've probably also experienced is that exact scenario where you click in to claim and it's pretty much gone immediately, and that's likely because someone higher up in that dispatch process got it before then. Typically in most markets, Portland included, leads get picked up within about 15 to 20 seconds during the dispatch. So if that gives you some idea, it's bouncing through a number of agents, but it's a very short time to claim the lead still, even if you are very highly ranked. Any questions on how the dispatch works or how that's stacked out or anything along those lines? We'll go into the ranking and what moves you up or down in the dispatch process as we go through here. Yeah?
I haven't used the app before, but say that the call gets dropped in dispatch, is there something in the app that'll give you their information to contact them?
It's a good question. We'll actually only refer the lead if we do have them on the line.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is in the transfer to the agent, if it drops, is there a way to contact them?
We'll know if it drops, so we'll actually contact the lead again and try and get them back on the line and re-transfer it to you. If we do lose the call completely and we're not able to transfer it, we'll actually just notify you that the lead dropped off the line and we're not able to refer it to you at this time. So we're not going to have
transfer either. You have to talk to the rep. They introduce you to the client. So if the client drops out at any time, they don't give it to you.
Exactly.
That happen in the middle of it.
So we won't. We basically won't refer it if you're having to cold call it. Yeah.
So I think that's what happened to me like a week ago. I got one and I claimed it. It says you won, and then I never got a call. And when I went in to look, they didn't show up. So I didn't have any information on them. So I figured either they hung up and decided they weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never got anything. So
it happens in a few scenarios. First of all, if the consumer has basically gotten to the end of the screening process and we think they're going to stay on the line and connect with an agent, sometimes they don't. They just hang up when they realize a transfer is happening. The other situation is there's a technical issue with the three-way transfer and the call just drops because of it. We usually do send out a notification, but it's hit or miss, so our product team is working on that. So if you didn't get a notification that the call dropped, that's supposed to send out as well. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
From your perspective, it may be 15 seconds. From our perspective, it may be 5.
Right, yeah.
Because, I don't know, the time to get the actual call transferred and all that, and actually ring it through. I mean, I've been in things, I've had the app open and tried to claim it in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's already been taken, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's more urgent than what you make it sound.
Yeah, no, and it definitely can be. It could even be 1 second, right? Especially if you're towards the end of the dispatch process and someone higher up than you is claiming it, right? Because in that scenario, they've had it for a little bit longer. You've had it for just 1 or 2 seconds, and even though you're super quick on the ball, someone else a little further up
I
is
just
getting it.
wanted to mention that to these people that it's, you know, they're thinking 15 seconds, wow, and I'm saying that's too much.
Yeah, yeah. 15 seconds, again, 15 to 20 is kind of the average for leads getting picked up in Portland, and that would be from the top ranked agent, the amount of time that they have. So, any other questions here? All right, we'll keep on moving on. So, example, this agent's getting our call from our OPCITY rep. How this call works, if you haven't experienced it or you're new to the platform, our CSR rep comes on the line with you. We relay all the information that we've collected about the lead. Once you've confirmed all that, accepted the opportunity over the phone, that's when we'll bring the lead in on the line. We'll do a quick introduction and then we'll drop off. So we'll talk about how to handle that call and best strategies for it. We'll just wrap up on a few other things here. In terms of OPCITY and how it's monetized and how we get paid, there's no upfront cost to OPCITY. We're getting paid when you get paid, so we collect a referral fee once the lead transacts, right? All right, so next up, best practices for using OPCITY and converting more leads and increasing your score. Ultimately, what we're trying to find out through our dispatch process and through our performance and ranking is whether you're closing leads and who the best person is with the highest ability to close that opportunity. There's a lot of factors that go into that, so we'll talk about some of them here and some of the additional engagement metrics we take a look at. Clicking to claims, one of the most important ones. When notifications come through, clicking on those and claiming those and doing it relatively quickly helps increase your score. It's also incredibly important when you're first starting out on the platform. So you were asking, how does it know when you're first starting out if you're going to close the lead or not? We actually don't. So what we do when you first sign up for OPCITY, we actually basically throw you a few bones. We throw you 1, 2, 3 opportunities to see how you do with those. So you're artificially boosted up when you first sign up for your account. We measure whether you're clicking and whether you're doing some of these other things to see how your performance is going to be on the platform. And if you start out really well, that can get you on a really steep trend when you're first initially using the platform. When the notifications come through though, do click into them, do claim them quickly. Even if you don't win that lead, someone else got it faster or anything like that, we're still measuring that and you're still being, your performance is still being boosted by your behavior.
So I have another question. I'm a little bit confused. So when the lead comes through OPCITY calls us, so
yeah.
There is nothing that you just answer your phone. Is it because you're saying that you click on the lead? Or?
Yeah, it's when, because we don't transfer the call until you've clicked into the notification and accepted it. So we send out alerts first that say to claim or skip the lead before they call. And based off what you do there, if you claim it and if you win it, that's when you get the call coming through. Yeah. Yes.
Do you get penalized for skipping it?
You don't get penalized for skipping it. I would recommend skipping it. What skipping will do though, is it will record those lead types. So if you're skipping on a consistent lead, let's say it's a lead under 100,000 or something like that, it'll eventually start lowering your priority for those leads because you're always skipping them. So it'll measure your behavior with skips. If you aren't able to answer that lead, like let's say you're in a listing meeting or something like that, and you just can't get to it, and it's a lead you would really want normally, ignoring would probably be better in that situation. And as long as you're not ignoring or skipping all of the time, that's not going to seriously impact your score in any way.
Where does the ignore button?
There is no, you just simply don't do anything.
Don't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, you had a question too.
You mentioned there's an alert before you answer the phone. When I was on it, there was no alert, it's just ringing.
Oh, did you just get a direct phone call
Yeah,
without
so
having
it's like,
claimed the lead?
I'm in the middle of some things like, oops, I missed that one, you know? I don't know if that's a new thing or maybe my alert thing was not on it at the time. And then I turned it off for a while because I've been busy, but I want to get back on it for the new year.
Yeah.
To establish more stuff to convert. So I don't know, maybe my app needs to have that alert. But
And you missed the call completely? You weren't able to pick it up?
It just comes and, cause I did put label Op City and I go, oh, here it is, and then, but you said, what kind of alert is it like?
It'll
Little
look.
a notification saying okay, it's coming, and then I would
Yeah.
like that, but I never had that.
You got an auto accept button, I want that.
It'll look like.
The only way I've ever gotten a direct phone call from Op City without an alert is if they had one of my previous clients that already accepted back on the line. So I've gotten that once where, they just inquired on another property and they've already been assigned to me.
Yeah.
But almost every other time I gotta accept, every other time you gotta accept the lead before they'll send the phone call through.
Yeah, so the alert should look like this with an option to claim or skip, and you
Okay.
shouldn't be able to get a.
Okay.
You shouldn't be able to get a phone call without it. The one thing it might be, have you been on the platform for a really long time?
I was
Well-
on it for, I think, a month or so back then.
Okay.
I turned
At
it
what
off 'cause I
time
got
though?
busy,
Like
so-
2018, 2017, somewhere in there?
No, just recently, in,
Okay.
just a couple of months or so.
Okay.
I've been on it, yeah, just this.
So that shouldn't be happening. We can take a loup at your app after and make
Okay.
sure you're all set up for
Great,
alerts
thank
though.
you.
So
That's
yeah.
a good thing to get the call directly and not be able to just
Not
choose
the
the
right
just pick it up. That's
Um,
upgraded.
Yeah, what I was thinking may have been happening, we refer to it internally as legacy, but if you've been on the platform a very long time, in certain markets, sometimes we don't have enough agents in the dispatch to connect certain leads to. And our CSR team actually has kind of a manual hot list of agents that they can try calling directly to pick up the call if the dispatch process fails. It's very rare and unusual now though.
Is it alert, I mean, when you have a little alert, does that mean that there's a delay before you can claim it, or it's just coming to me because it was sent to me?
The alert's sending to you because you're eligible for the lead and
Right.
it's trying to dispatch it to you.
Okay,
So from the alert, you would want to be clicking claim or skip or just simply ignoring it depending
Okay.
on what you want. And then the call's going to come through after you
Okay.
claim it. So to continue, updating your referral manager every 7 days. If you've been on the platform for any length of time, you know you have to log into it once a week or it's going to start pinging you that leads are overdue and that you need to log in and post updates on your leads. So this is required, but it also does contribute to your score. If you're consistently running overdue with your leads, that will drop your performance over time. The other thing you can do is use our inbox feature. I'll go into a little bit more later, but it's a brand new feature that was released. It allows you to call and text within our app. So rather than opening up your own dialer or your own messages program, you can just use the in-app calling and texting feature, and that contributes to your score as well as a separate metric. It won't take care of the updates for you, but we're basically measuring it separately from that to see if you're engaging with the leads through that communication. Next up, you can release leads that aren't a good fit for you. So releasing leads is something some agents are a little bit too hesitant to do, I would say. Releasing leads can be a good thing. Let's say a lead comes through, they're not a good fit for you, or let's say they were looking in an area you serviced and now they're looking way down south and that's not an area you want to go to. Those are good reasons to just release the lead back to us. What releasing will do, it'll send it back to our CSR team to incubate and scrub and re-refer, assuming it's still a good opportunity. It might be a situation where you've had a more in-depth financial discussion with the lead and you've decided, or you've found out that they're not going to be able to transact at all. If that's the case, you can just release it back and we won't re-refer that lead, but we'll just keep that basically on the back burner for the time being. Yeah.
So you read the comments that we make when we release
Correct.
the lead?
Yeah. So based off that, if it's a different service area and they need to connect with an agent, when you release the lead, you'll be able to communicate that and our CSR team will dispatch it to someone else in a different area. Another reason you could release a lead, let's say they initially thought they were going to be transacting within 3 months. For whatever reason, finances didn't come through. It's going to be a year before they have everything backed up behind them. That may be an opportunity you want to continue working with down the line. What you can do though is release it back to us. We'll incubate that opportunity and follow up with it for you. If it becomes a good lead later down the road, we'll actually give you the opportunity to pick it up again if they want to work with you. So we'll dispatch it to you before sending it out to anyone else. Yeah.
How many times should I contact them if they drop off and then before I release them?
It's very subjective and up to you with kind of how much time you have and what systems you're using to do that follow-up.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't recommend following up more than, 6 to 9 times is kind of the
So the algorithm isn't
benchmark.
set up to penalize you for releasing it if you decide that.
No, where it won't penalize you directly. Where you might start seeing something though is, let's say you have a release rate of 100%, you release all of your leads back, then you're not closing any, so clearly that's going to have a negative impact on your score, right? So as long as you're still keeping enough to close, that's really the important thing. Yes, go ahead.
Well, what's better? You've got somebody that just seems lowly motivated, but it's like, who knows, they might contact you again.
Yeah.
Are you better off to release those or put them on long-term hold?
If you have we're going to do long-term hold next, so this is perfect. If you have no idea when they might transact or what their motivation level is at this point, I would suggest releasing it back to us and we'll do the incubation for you and we can try and connect it with you again if needed. If you're pretty confident they are going to transact, usually 6 months is what we recommend, then you could keep it and continue following up with it in a long-term hold.
So the difference is you're gonna re-engage the ones we release and try to get them to come back
Right.
to us.
Yeah. And long-term hold, for those of you who don't know it, it's just this other button when you're updating a lead. It'll pause the lead from those 7-day updates. So let's say the lead's not going to transact for 6 months, but you're pretty confident at the end of that they're going to be working with you. Put it on long-term hold, and you won't have to do the 7-day updates. You don't want to do long-term hold for all of your leads by any means. It's not a way to cheat the system on those 7-day updates. So if you're doing that for every lead you get, that's a behavior we're going to see and may ultimately start affecting you. But assuming you're not doing it for everyone, it's totally fine to use that as well.
So one thing I find when I'm working online leads and other platforms is that you'll get a client, basically you're kind of being used, right? They want to see one property, and then you can never get it. You show them the property, and then just for whatever reason, they'll just never respond to you again.
Right.
So we just release those back?
Releasing definitely takes the effort off. You will continue following up with them. If they do indicate that they'd be open to working with you again, we'll just reconnect them with you. Yeah.
And any leads that you guys release, you can always go back to your release tab and restore them. So if they reach back out to you, you can go in and restore them on your end, no problem.
Yeah.
So if you release them, they're not gone forever. We're working on them and you can always restore
So let's say that John Smith buys a home, so you get your referral fee. A year later, John Smith calls us back, hey, I want to sell my house. Whose client are they?
So our referral fees run for 24 months. So any transactions with that consumer within a 24-month period have a referral fee due back on them.
So you could get multiple referral fees on the same client?
It's possible if they're transacting multiple times within that same 2-year period, yeah.
But if I do a great job with John Smith and he refers his friend over, I don't pay you guys a referral for that.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
So
We're going to go through that
open the
part as
door,
well.
Do a great job and get the referrals from those referrals.
Yeah.
There's the motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yes.
does the documentation work at closing? How do you get paid?
The closing documentation and payment, I believe it runs through Nikki here.
So Moore handles
but-
everything.
Yeah.
So that's for 40% that we take at closing, 35 or so goes to them, and we handle everything, send off documentation. It does take a few weeks sometimes, so I know a few that have closed, have gotten notifications. We're working on that process. That's part of the reason why they're here this week is hopefully next month we'll get it down so it only takes a week to get those things
Are we
right.
required to use the TC?
TC is included, yes.
So
So it's included, but can we not use the TC?
So you need to notify the TC if you get one of these deals so we can track it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we've had agents close, we paid them out, and then they said, oh, well, that was an OPCITY, you should have known that.
Yeah.
And we're like, how do we know that unless you tell us?
But we can still do the whole transaction ourselves as long as we know.
Absolutely, the TC is always here to help and assist.
Okay.
So is it 35% retail?
No, it's 40%, we said it, 40%. So.
Any other questions on releasing, holding? All right, we can always come back to things as well if you want. The other key thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit more towards the end of the presentation, face-to-face meetings are really key for OPCITY. 68% of buyers and sellers work with the first person they meet, right? And in addition to that, 90% of OPCITY closes actually happen where the agent and the client meet within 12 days. So typically if you're setting up meetings in a very short time after you've had your introductory phone call, those leads are going to close at a much higher rate than ones who take longer to get a meeting established with. So we are tracking how long it takes you to get a meeting done. If you're setting up a meeting and updating the lead status to met in the OPCITY app within 14 days, that positively contributes to your score. Yes?
So I have several OPCITY leads that are kind of far away and they don't know, and would it be better for me to release them back to you rather than bug them every 7 days and say, hi, it's me, how you doing?
Yeah, certainly if
they're I know they're on a long-term process.
Yeah,
I can't meet them because they're not ready to do anything yet.
I would probably recommend releasing in that case if they're wishy-washy and also relatively far out of your service area. Those are good opportunities to release back, and we can continue incubating them. Sorry, no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, the other thing that you can do, if they're far away or if they're in another state, if you FaceTime or Skype with that client, that counts as met. Yeah. So if you can do it.
I'll have to figure out.
Yeah.
So moving a little bit more into the consumer experience, we've got our happy couple here, partially sitting on their couch and potentially on the floor, I'm not sure, but they're looking at their iPad, looking at Realtor.com, and they're submitting inquiries on listings, right? It's kind of the ideal image we all have when consumers are shopping around for real estate online. What happens though, they submit their inquiry, they get a call back within 4 seconds, that's great, I want to ask all my questions about this listing, but that 4-second call is met with delay, right? So they've got their call immediately, which is gratifying, but they're a little bit delayed at that point because they really wanted help and they're not getting it. What we're doing is asking them 20 different questions to qualify them and determine their motivations and whether they're pre-qualified. And they may have just had a quick question on a listing, so it can be a little frustrating getting hit with that delay as soon as they start talking with our team. So it's important to empathize with this process that we're going through with leads. The initial phone call that they have with our CSR team is about 4 minutes typically. They may run longer, may run shorter depending what we work out with the lead. But as you can imagine, that comes with some hurdles and pitfalls, and it can be a bit of an overwhelming experience for consumers as well. A lot of first-time home buyers specifically, and these are a lot of the consumers we get through online portals, are first-time home buyers. They may not even understand an agent's role, what you do, how you're going to help with the buying process, or why they need to speak with an agent to answer these questions. So we're fielding that and we're dealing with it during that CSR conversation. But ultimately when they get on the line with you, they still may not really have a clear idea of why they need to speak with an agent. So that's something you're going to have to be able to address pretty quickly as soon as you get that phone call from us. Another thing, hesitation about phone scams, right? They've gotten a call back from essentially a stranger within 4 seconds of submitting an inquiry online, and we're asking questions about their pre-qualification and self-assessed credit level and things like that. It can cause some hesitation from consumers, especially because they're now getting transferred to a second person, you, the agent, and they're getting potentially asked some more questions by you as well. So that can provide some hesitation. They may not be super open to having a full conversation with you during that initial call, and you should keep that in mind during this process. Last thing, but not the least by any means, lots of consumers have their aunt, their uncle, their neighbor down the street who is also a real estate agent, and they were going to be buying with that person, but they just submitted an inquiry on Realtor.com because they wanted to know a little bit more about this one specific listing, and they thought they needed to talk to the listing agent or something like that, right? So that may be the expectation they've got. It's going to be important for you to reinforce why you specifically should be working with that lead and why they should bring their business over to you. So some things that you can do to prep for the call that you get with OPCITY. Make sure you've got the MLS information ready to go and that you're able to answer their questions proactively. When our CSR reps get on the line with you, if there's a specific property they are inquiring on, we're telling you what that is, we're telling you what their preferences are. So you can pull that up and be ready to answer the consumer's questions as soon as they get transferred into you. That's the best way to start out that call. If you're asking the consumer questions as soon as they get on the line with you, they've just done 20 questions with our CSR team over that 4-minute call, and they're going to get really frustrated and it's going to go badly. Next up, make sure you're proving your value and showing them why they want to work with you and why they want to work with a real estate agent. They're looking around at online portals. They probably think they've got everything they need through Realtor.com or Zillow or Trulia or anything like that. Make sure they understand you've got MLS information. You can provide them more up-to-date info and more detailed info than what they'll find elsewhere, right? That's really going to help cement them and get them working with you quicker. Scheduling showings, likely these consumers want to get out and see a house as soon as possible, so if you can get a showing lined up with them, that's great. It counts as your first meeting with that consumer. It's a good way for you to show off your skills and show off your personality. So it's a good way for you to continue that communication and drive that first call. So if you can drive it towards a showing, that's an awesome solution. Things you want to avoid doing, don't reconfirm the data our CSR team's already gone over. If you can avoid asking them questions that we've already asked, it's just going to be frustrating for them if they have to repeat themselves because they're going to feel like they're not being heard. They really don't understand that OPCITY is completely different from you and that two different entities basically, they're thinking they're speaking with a single experience here, right? So we want to make that as consistent as possible. Don't repeat information for them. Always reconfirm their email address and phone number. We're going to pass that along to you. However, we all know things can get missed along the way. They may have typed in something incorrectly. Our CSR team might have recorded it down wrong or anything like that. So if you can just make sure you've got their email and phone number confirmed and that you can reach out to them directly, that's a good outcome for you. And you also want to confirm how they'd like to be communicated with. So what's their preferred communication method? Do they want to be emailed, called, texted? You can get that confirmed by the end of the call. Some other hurdles, we've all seen this with online leads. The property they're looking at is not available. It's under contract, it's been sold, they're not going to be able to see this listing. How do we respond to that? A lot of the time, 90% of closings with OPCITY happen on a different property than what the consumer inquired on. So the vast majority of the time, they're going to transact on something else anyway. And it's important to drive the conversation in that direction. A lot of the times when we listen to calls that go poorly in this scenario, a lot of agents ask, is there anything else you're interested in seeing? Why is that a bad way to frame up your question?
Because they can say no.
Correct, right? It's a yes or no answer. And furthermore, you're telling the consumer something negative. You're telling them, no, this property isn't available. My natural response is just to tell you, no, I'm not interested in anything else, thank you. I can continue looking around at my own discretion online at that point, and I'll continue submitting inquiries and potentially get off to someone else. The better way to frame that up is, what attracted you to this particular property? It's that open-ended question. It's not yes or no. You get information from them about what they're looking for, and you can proactively suggest what other properties they might want to see. So some scripts we run across for this. It looks like this home's under contract, so I don't think we'll be able to see it. Based on what you've shared, I have a home in mind for you that we can see instead. So that's a good way to handle it. Another one, we're in a seller's market and some properties move within days. I'm glad we connected because there's several listings that haven't come on the market yet, but I can certainly set up showings as soon as they become available. This one's really good. It proactively suggests some other listings for them, and it also really reinforces the fact that you have access to data and advantages that they're not going to get by just searching around online. Yeah?
Can we get these?
Yes, I can send all this out to you. So I'll pass that along to Eric, and then can distribute all that. Next up, when consumers are not pre-qualified, and this one, I know it is a divisive issue. A lot of people think, I'm only going to meet with a consumer if they're pre-qualified. That's fine. I've got some suggestions for you there. There's also the theory, I'm going to work with the consumer whether they're pre-qualified or not, so I'll discuss that with you as well. Really, with pre-qualification, we want to combat question fatigue. Again, the consumer's gone through 20 questions with our team over a 4-minute call. They're getting on the call with you. Both experiences are new and strange. They're speaking with people they don't know. They probably don't want to answer a bunch of financial questions on that first call as soon as they start talking with you. So the purpose of our initial call, it's to answer the consumer's questions, it's to schedule a showing or a meeting, and it's to build rapport and differentiate yourself. Prove your value, prove why you're unique, and set up an additional meeting for a little later on where you can discuss all of the questions and details that you need to go through. So save all that for face-to-face. As Andrea already mentioned, FaceTime or Skype meetings are a great way to do this, right? If you don't want to actually get out in front of that person, maybe they're shady, maybe you don't feel like they are going to be pre-qualified or anything like that, FaceTime or Skype meeting a couple days after that initial call is a great way to handle it. It gets you your meeting quickly, it gets you face-to-face with them. But it allows you and the consumer to have a more comfortable time where you can ask and answer all of the questions you've got. So that's probably what I would recommend in that situation. If you are going to talk about the pre-qualification during the very first call that you get from us, some open ways of doing that. Would you feel comfortable if I walk you through the pre-qualification process? A lot of the times they're not going to understand what pre-qualification is or why they want to do it. So making sure they understand that you're there to help them with it is great. I would hate for you to see the home, love it, and then have to wait 2 days for qualification, only to lose the house to someone else. So again, it kind of lets them know why they want to get pre-qualified and gives you an open way to go into that with them. If you're of the mindset that you are okay working with them, and even if they're not pre-qualified, and you'll try and get them through that process, but you're going to set up meetings and showings and everything like that in the interim, that can still benefit you through referrals, right? What we find with a lot of top agents, they work a non-pre-qualified contact the exact same way they work a completely pre-qualified contact. By providing a really high level of service, showing yourself and demonstrating your value. What ends up happening, maybe that consumer doesn't pre-qualify, maybe things fall through for a few months, but they've got a friend or a family member who's looking to buy later and they refer that to you, right? The benefit of that, it's not a complete waste of your time, you're getting some other deals out of it, and furthermore, these friends and family members do not generate a referral fee. So those are your hard-earned contacts in business. We don't collect just because someone referred someone to you.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon to have a parent or a child calling for, a parent or a child.
Right.
And so you're saying you're referring to somebody else. Do we owe you a commission
So yes, there is a commission owed if let's say I'm inquiring and my mom's buying the property for me. There's still a referral fee due in that scenario because she's buying on my behalf. There's no.
She's not buying. She's just.
Or she's helping you though.
If she's helping with a down payment or something like that, that doesn't generate anything because I'm buying it myself at that point. But if she's buying on my behalf, there's still a referral fee due. If she's buying for herself, though, or for another kid or something along those lines, that's not business we collect on. So it depends basically who's living in that house or who's intended for that property. Yeah.
How do you keep track of closings?
We keep track of closings through a variety of ways. First of all, you all help update the system by doing your weekly updates and reporting back to us. So self-reporting is the main one. We also do a lot of auditing through MLS feeds and different things like that. We get a lot of third-party data showing property purchases, and we match that all up against the back end of our system. So if you haven't self-reported a closing, it is possible that a year later it'll pop up in the system and tell you there's a closing due. Any other?
One
Yeah.
more question. In the setting of our profile, is it anywhere we can say how many languages we speak? Or just for people who wants to speak specific language?
Yeah, we can, we just have English and Spanish on our back end, but our agent success team can put that in for you. We don't have additional languages right now, unfortunately.
Maybe we should add.
We should, so.
Yeah, especially Asian speaking.
Yeah.
That's really big in this area.
For sure. I think it is definitely on the
And
radar.
even Russian.
Yeah, yeah. So it's feedback I can push through to our product team. So thank you. Other questions? All right. So we're just wrapping up here, but before you end the call, some things to do. Set the stage for what happens next. Make sure you've got a clear outline of what you're doing. Are you doing a FaceTime meeting? When is that? Are you meeting them in person? Are you doing a showing? Share your V card with them via text. You've confirmed their information on the call. Send it to them directly once you get off the call. Send your information over to them directly. We with OPCITY are of course going to share it all with you anyway, but again, it's good to make sure nothing's slipping between the cracks and that you've got that direct line established.
So does everybody know what a V card is?
No.
V card, yes, that's a good, good question. V card is just your digital card that's on your phone basically. So your contact from your phone, you can actually go and share that with someone, just text it to them, and it'll load up all of your contact information. So you can put your website on your phone's personal contact profile. You can put your name, number, email, everything about you can be on that when you text it over to someone. Yeah.
The 24-month period, does that start at initial contact or is that?
It starts at the point of assignment, so that initial phone call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can
Yes.
you add a photo to that V card? Like I usually like to send an email because it's got my photo, they know what especially if I'm going to be meeting them, that then have a way of seeing what I look like before we meet so they can recognize me.
I know iPhone to iPhone does photos. I'm not sure about like iPhone to
And I
Android,
don't
for
have apps.
instance.
I have an Android.
Okay. I can definitely check into it for you though.
And what
So.
about attachments? Because I always like to send them the disclosure form right away, that since we're talking about finances usually right away.
Right. Yeah. You won't be able to attach it to the V card directly, but you can send that separately.
You could send that in like the email
Yeah.
like, directly so that it shows up, so I don't, because I usually do that separate, so I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not getting that credit for communicating with them if you say you're keeping track
Right.
of, you know, texts and phone calls within the system. That helps me.
Yeah, but that's completely fine. We expect that you're going to be communicating out this side of the system as well, which is why you can still update the lead just by recording a manual touch point with them.
Okay.
So that still all gets tracked. Confirm their communication preferences, we've talked about that, and then of course set your time for a next outreach if you're doing another face-to-face meeting, hopefully. Things you can do to add value post-call as well. Disclosure form, right? Floor plans, MLS search results, meeting confirmation, send them a calendar invite. You can send them your business card or your bio. They're probably going to be looking you up online once they get off the phone with you. You've got a lot of online profiles. You should know what shows up when you Google yourself, right? Is your Realtor.com profile showing up? Is that filled out and is it consistent with what you're telling people over the phone? What other profiles show up for you online? What's your LinkedIn looking like? All of those should be consistent with how you're handling new opportunities and new leads. First-time home buyers guides, affordability calculators, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure a lot of this you know, but it's all good to send as soon as you drop off the line. New tools that we've released with OPCITY. I'll run through this quickly and then we're about done here. Your OPCITY score, this has been in the system for a little while. It was released in the spring, but if you go under the Performance tab in OPCITY, you now get a clear view of what your score is on the platform, which is directly related to how many leads you should expect to see. Typically anything over about 110 means you've had a very good consistent performance on the platform, so you expect to see more leads than not at that point. If you click into View Score Details, you'll actually see a detailed breakdown of how your score has been calculated and what you can be doing better. So it'll tell you, you've closed X number of deals, that's better than this many agents, you should be meeting more clients, for instance. It'll give you some contextual coaching right in this screen. And another thing we've got, this has also been around since about this spring, I think, but when you go into your referral manager settings and when you go to select your area, We actually tell you how many leads you can expect to see in the area you're in based off the zip code you're putting in. So that's kind of the first sign of volume that you get. It'll show you low, medium, or high. You've also got this little meter over here. That's slightly separate. So this is going to show you just overall what's in your area. And this is going to show you based off my other settings, like price ranges and things like that. If I had medium volume here, how are these settings affecting that, and what's my overall lead flow going to be? So that's a really good benchmark just to see how many leads you can expect based off your settings. If you're putting a bunch of stipulations in, like price ranges, things like that, you're going to receive fewer opportunities, but potentially more quality opportunities, right? So it's just a give and take that you should be aware of when you're updating your settings. And last but not least, the new inbox feature. So we've discussed it a few times now, but it's calling and texting within our app. You're basically assigned an OPCITY phone number that allows our app to do calls and texts directly out of it. The other thing it can do is automatically run text messages for you. So if you turn that on, it'll automatically text the client. It's a really useful feature, and it's actually used to track your score as well. So it does play into the number of leads you'll receive and everything along those lines. I would definitely recommend setting it up if you're not already using it and you're on the platform. When you log in, there is a prompt asking me to show me my inbox, but you can also access it just from your settings as well. You can get that turned on in there and set it up how you want. You don't have to use the automated texting feature, so if you've already got your own campaigns and things like that, you can keep that switched off, and you can just use it when you're communicating back and forth. We can do some nifty things with inbox as well. So for instance, for Realtor.com customers, since we're all integrated in one company now between Realtor.com and OPCITY, let's say they request a showing on Realtor.com after they've already been connected with you. We can connect that right through your app and send them confirmations, etc., through the app instead. So
is that available now?
Agent Inbox is available now, yeah.
So you may have to do an update to your app?
If you haven't updated your app, it should be updating automatically, but you might want to see if there's an updated version you can install. If you're wanting to set it up, it should just be under settings that you can get it configured and turned on. Yes?
Do you know if you're going to add video to that as well, so like with phone calls or whatever?
Like a video phone
FaceTime
call?
and whatnot, because people with Androids.
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I will follow up on it for you though. Yeah. All right, I'll just wrap up with our support team contact here, and then we can answer any other questions that are around. But our support team's available at 844-804-1849. They're our agent success team. They're there to help coach you on whatever you need. So if you've got questions about why this or that is working the way it is, how you can get better performance out of the system or anything along those lines, our agent success team will be able to coach you through that. And I'll just leave that up. My next slide is just thank you, so this is probably a more useful one to keep on the screen. I'll turn it over to all of you for questions, and then we'll be around as well, so if you've got some individual questions for your account or how it's working, we can help answer any of those individual questions. But first of all, questions for the group. Yeah.
What happens to the ones that expire?
The ones that expire, those are basically ignored leads. So they came through to you, you didn't click or claim or skip them, so they've likely gone out to someone else.
Nobody. It's just expired for me.
It's just expired for you. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember when I took the training, but is there a certain place you wanted us to direct them for financing? I can't remember if that was one of the.
Potentially. So we're partnered with lender and title companies as well. So if the consumer does tell our CSR team that they'd like to speak with a lender, we'll refer them to one of our lenders. Okay. If that happens, you'll get an email with the lender's information, and it's ultimately the consumer's choice which lender and title company they work with, right? So we ask that you be open to working with those lender and title companies, but if they want to get quotes from others and you're suggesting some of those, that's totally fine. We just ask that you're not actively steering someone away from our lender. So that's about it. Yes?
So I did notice you have cross-country mortgage and some Texas contacts. We have people in the same building with that. Can we refer them directly to that through the app?
To these folks?
Yeah, Eric had mentioned that to me as well, so I'm gonna speak with our lending team about the cross-country in your building here.
Okay.
If that Texas cross-country has been referred the same way through our system, just the same ask there, basically, that you not actively steer away from that company, but the consumer can definitely get quotes from others and
Well, because I
choose
noticed
who
that
they
there's
wanna
a
work
drop
with.
down for referring, again, a mortgage or title or whoever. So if we click on that and see that our counterparts over there are available, can we just do that if they haven't already been assigned?
Yeah, the cross-country here, though, isn't in the platform yet, so I do need to get them connected and go through that.
But eventually
spiel
we
with us.
probably will be able to do something like that.
If they are, yeah, then if they're available, you can definitely do it that way. Yeah. Other questions?
I'd just like to comment.
Yeah.
Best practice, in my opinion, I'm a pretty good, I do a pretty good job of assessing people, over the phone or in person. But I totally blew it on one that I closed. And so I would recommend, usually they want to look at one house. I mean, that's what they want. You're not setting up a showing for 10 houses.
Right.
Invest the time to go and meet them at that one house and see where it goes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even really talk to them about pre-qualifying over the phone. Just meet them and show them the house, and that gives you an opportunity to then move forward. For
Yeah.
what we pay, for what it costs us to get decent leads, I think it's worth the time to meet them at a house.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's a low probability. I had a gal tell me that her dad's a realtor. Okay, well, he's a realtor in Ohio. So you never know.
So if the
Yeah.
house pending or anything, you still meet them at the house?
What's that?
If the house is pending already, the house that they wanna see, are you still meeting them?
No, I think if it's pending, you really can't show it.
I know,
Yeah.
but then how do you meet?
So then you're gonna have to change that conversation and just talk about that. But
One of the
I'm just
things-
saying in general,
Yeah.
meet these people, show them one house, give them an opportunity to work, face to face.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's definitely consistent with how we see most deals turning out well, and I think it's just the better situation for you both to determine if that's a good relationship is face to face.
I don't think you become a real person to them until they see you in person.
No, and they don't become a real person to you until the same thing happens, right? So it's easy to give up
Just
on
on
both
the phone
fronts.
and text is enough.
Yeah.
And you
Totally.
had said that you were going to forward the stuff to Eric, right? That,
Yeah.
The verbiage that was on there that we could kind of look at.
We'll send the full training slide deck over. Yeah.
So I'm
Yes.
still trying to figure out which scenario is best for using the hold versus the refer back.
Yeah.
If either way, it's still kind of my connection if you refer it back.
Mm-hmm.
If they contact you or contact me, I can get it back on my plate.
Right.
Hold, how long does the hold last? Maybe that's the question.
We recommend hold for really up to 6 months. So if you're looking for just a rule of thumb benchmark, I would say 6 months. If you think there's a good chance that you'll be working actively with them within a 6-month period, put them on a long-term hold. If you think it's going to be any longer than that, that's when I'd consider the release option instead.
Okay, because I have a few that I've gotten and their finances and their credit score is not in order, but I'm working with them and they're talking to a lender that I referred them to.
Yeah.
So should I just put them on hold
Yep.
even though I think it's gonna take more like a year?
That's a good question. I would probably say hold for those ones, especially if you think.
Because I've already met with them and we're
Oh, yeah.
communicating.
Yeah, then that's a good opportunity for a hold.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just check back with them once a month or so, see how.
yeah.
But always keep in mind that even if you do release it, we're gonna try and work that lead for 6 months for you. So if we get them back, it's gonna come back to you anyways,
To-
right?
right.
So just keep that in mind. The only time that we would not send you back one of those leads, if you've released it, is if you, as the agent, have specifically said, I don't wanna work with this person. Then we'll send it off to another agent. So always keep that in mind. That's usually the only reason why we wouldn't send it back. But if you don't wanna work it, it's just gonna take too much of your time. release it. We'll do it.
And the other thing I'd say is, in your situation, you've already met with them,
Yeah.
you've got that relationship established, so it's probably better for you to continue the communication with them, rather than passing it off to us and kind of
Having
doing
you
a hand
pester
wave.
them. 'Cause
Yeah.
then- that's basically what you would do, right?
Yeah.
You would
Right.
continue to follow up.
We'll
with-
pester them instead of you having to
Yeah,
pester
but if
them.
I'm communicating, I don't really want them to
Exactly.
be pestered.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
Yeah.
Do you have examples of the campaigns that you're doing with those follow-ups? Like are you texting, are you emailing, are you calling?
We're doing a mix of calls and text messages. The specific cadence and everything like that, we do 20 up to 26 touch points, usually over a 6-month period, and it's a mix of calls and text messages, and it's going to vary quite dramatically based off the lead and the price points and everything like that. So.
Then do you also have a list of the questions that you guys are going through, that 20-question, 4-minute call?
I don't have a full list of the script, just because it goes in a lot of different directions depending exactly how the calls are panning out. We kind of did a quick summary of just basically what's being gone through for property preferences, price points, time frame, things like that, and what our CSR team is communicating is basically all of the questions that we've asked.
So are you using that to set up a search for them then, or what do you, because we don't get all that details. I mean, we just get the one property and maybe one sentence or 2 sentences. Obviously, you guys asked a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Where do we see that?
Whatever we're collecting that's relevant, we're putting in the notes area. So we are passing on everything
You're
we're
asking
getting.
20 questions, you're not collecting a lot then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
we're
smart
getting
stuff.
zip code, maximum budget. Those are the main ones. A lot of the times, the calls are being used to talk about why you don't want to speak to the listing agent specifically, and why you should connect with a different agent like that. So that's where a lot of the length of the call goes into, is positioning the value of speaking with the realtor and connecting with one through OPCITY. Yeah. Yes.
That number there is, we can call at any time for our app settings or other things, whatever, because sometimes this is just so overwhelming, all this
Yeah,
information.
it can be.
On this live, remember everything.
Yeah, so you can
Okay.
definitely call this team for anything.
Okay,
If
yeah.
it is something that gets super technical, we might transfer it over to our support,
Okay, no
support
worries.
team
Yeah, yeah, okay,
specifically.
that's all.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you have anything specific, you can always ask Eric, and Eric can message me. I'm gonna be like your main contact for the account. So if there's something specific and you guys are like super frustrated or whatever, I'm more than happy to give you guys a call. So if you need me, I'm here.
So question for you about a client that we get that maybe is an Oregon client, they're looking for in Portland, and so I obviously get the lead, but I'm not licensed in Washington, and then they say, well, I want to go look in Washington at something. How should we handle that through your system? Because obviously I can't go show it then. I have another agent in the office that could, but what's that look like in your system?
Yeah, currently the right way to handle that would be to just simply release the lead back, and we'll refer it to a Washington agent. The reason that's our best option right now is routing and dispatching leads through our algorithm is how we maintain RESPA compliance. So currently we're not able to support direct referrals within the office because of that. However, there is talk about what we can do in that regard and if we can support that moving forward. So I've actually already got that on our table with our product team.
And I've actually talked to somebody in your support team. I got a client that spoke Spanish, and they spoke enough, but then they said they wanted a Spanish-speaking client. And I actually called, and your team said, find another agent in your office that speaks Spanish.
Yeah, and that might be
But that's counterintuitive to what you just said, so.
It might be something we recommend. We can update the assignment on our back end if needed. It's just not supported on the front end of the platform. So it's very situational, but in general, yeah, the recommended practice is release and we'll redispatch.
So release, put in the notes, they need a Washington agent.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions? Yeah.
If they don't like Washington and they want to come back to Oregon.
Hopefully they'll be okay releasing and redispatching again. But yeah, you can always restore the lead. So if they just contact their old agent again,
So even
that
if
old
they
agent
do
can bring
get
it back.
assigned to another person, they're still in your restore list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, if they want to work with that old agent, they should just contact them directly again, and then they can bring it back. Yes.
So going back to the language of Spanish and English, so automatically because you said that on our profile, we can say what languages we speak. So isn't that automatically you send a client who wants to speak, for example, Spanish to a Spanish-speaking real estate?
Typically, yeah, we'll connect with someone who's speaking Spanish. It depends on what our CSR team's assessment is of their language. They may be passable with English, and if we go through Spanishing agents, it could go to English agents after that.
So it was actually his daughter, his 8-year-old daughter, that was talking to their rep, and they passed over the 8-year-old daughter that spoke English. So when I talked to her, I said, I need to talk to your parents about the house.
Did you pre-qualify?
He was like, well, my dad doesn't speak English. So things like that.
I just had that yesterday.
Do your reps
Which
have
said that same
multiple
thing.
language capabilities? I mean, are your CSR speaking in Spanish or Russian or
Just
whatever?
Spanish and English.
Yeah,
Just
and
Spanish and English?
yeah, and that's why the language support is the way it is right now, just because we just have reps on those two at the moment. So, other questions?
And yeah, we do have a quality team also, so if something like that happens again, you can reach out to us or to support and kind of report that as a quality concern, because we're obviously trying to make the introductions there, but that probably could have been handled a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And I do know that a lot of times I get that introduction, and they say, well, they're approved up to 200,000. And then when you talk to them, they're at least like, well, I got approval letter for 350. And you're like, your rep didn't ask. You just put in the price of the property they wanted to look at.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to take some of those lower dollar amount ones, because they do turn into other things. I've had people inquire on a manufactured home, and they're like, oh, space rent and all that other stuff. They really could afford a $250,000, place, or something more expensive than a $100,000 mobile home. So.
We've had it before too, where especially for first-time home buyers, and as Ian was saying, they're very confused by some of the questions that they get. So they'll say, oh, I have $60,000 for a property, but that's actually their down payment. So that's why I always say open up all of the price points, because you never know. And if it really, if they are looking for a $60,000 house around here, obviously that doesn't exist, release it back. So again, it doesn't hurt your score. So, but even if you take those lower price points and you do get a closing out of it, obviously your score goes up. So just a tip.
So I'm curious, how many of you guys already have the app downloaded? Okay, so that's kind of the next action item is the app downloaded. If you aren't signed up, you got to contact us for an invite. So that's the other piece. Is if you don't have an invite from OPCITY yet, it is through the brokerage level. So you just have to ping Eric Young or Paul, and we'll send you an invite. So just keep that in mind if you want to be part of the program. Obviously make sure you send us a link so we can send out an email to you. But if you are part of the program and you don't have the app downloaded, how many leads are you going to get? None, right? So there's actually a list that we go through, and there are quite a few agents that signed up, went through the registration process, and it says they don't have the mobile app. Well, they're not getting any leads then, right? So certainly, I know it's frustrating because sometimes you jump on it, you're like, I was on my phone, I saw the lead come in, I tried to hit that button, I didn't get it. I can look and see, response times for some of our agents are 27 seconds, 12 seconds, and they still don't get the lead. So it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
And it's all about that. This is not the primary source of only business you get, right? They're not giving you enough leads necessarily to be your only source, but it's a great supplemental. And the nice thing about it is, rather than going buying leads somewhere else, they're actually transferring live phone calls to you. So you don't have to go through and sift through all those bad leads and bad numbers of people that don't want to talk to you, because you're actually getting somebody that wants to talk to you. If you claim the lead and wait for that phone call, you are going to talk to a live consumer. So, and then that's where the fun part begins, right? And so that's where we need to make sure we have, the experience on how to do it. The first couple times you do it, you're a little uncomfortable. You're like, boy, I need that MLS pulled up. How do I do that? How many of you guys can pull up the MLS on your phone in like 30 seconds?
No.
Phone snap. Phone snap.
Okay.
You can put in the MLS number or address. It'll pull up the full MLS listing for you in 10 seconds. So if you don't have the HomeSnap app downloaded, download that along with the OPCITY app. You will get the notification of the property they're looking at the same time. If you win it, it'll give you the MLS number. Unfortunately, you won't let me cut and paste the MLS number in the app, but you have to remember it or look at the address, and then you can punch it into HomeSnap. But definitely, lifesaver there, especially if you're out and about. You want to claim this, but you need that information because you want to start talking about the property a little bit.
So we download the app, and then what is it that we have to get from the invite you sent?
So you won't be able to log into the app until you get an invite and register with OPCITY. And the invite has to come through Mobility. We have to authorize you to be part of our team. Because we're responsible to track this and do some other things. So there's extra things. We get notified if you don't update your things and all of that stuff. The good news is they do a great job in the back office of handling a lot of it for us. But there are other things at the brokerage level we have to do. So
download the app and ask for the invite.
Yep, so send us on Basecamp is the easiest way. If you ping Eric Young and say, hey, I want an OPCITY invite, we'll do it. Obviously if there's questions and things like that, we will do some additional training. I know that they have some additional training tools that they want to give us, all about how to convert those online leads. So how many of you guys have worked other leads for online leads? Yeah? How many of you guys have closed something from an online lead? Good. So that's what we want to see. We want to get better at doing that, right? Because online leads are different. They're not your friends, they're not your family, they're not that great referral, right? And so it does take a little practice, and this is a great way to practice, because literally you claim the lead, you start talking to the client. And not everyone's going to hit it out of the park, but if you know what you're going to say and have it pulled up, you'll get better at it. And so that's why the algorithm takes a little while for them to get it, is because they want to see that, hey, you're jumping on those leads. They also want to look and make sure you are setting appointments to meet them in person, right? Because that's one of the things that they heavily weight. Because, we can do okay on the phone, but if you never meet the client, how many deals are you going to close? Right? I mean, hopefully you meet the client before you close the deal. And so they want to see that. And they have different benchmarks, and they were showing us the other day, and it's on the app. Top agents, top 10% are claiming and having 20% meetings, things like that. And so it's a great way to judge yourself against those that you're competing against. And you're wondering, well, why am I not getting enough leads, things like that? Maybe it's because now we need to focus on the leads you do getting those in-person appointments, moving that benchmark so that number goes up a little bit more. And so I encourage you, open it up, all price points for when you first start. Open up the area, go 20, 25 miles from your house. Don't do areas, of course, that you would never want to go to, but do something so you get a volume of leads. Because until you start getting in the rhythm and get a few of these phone calls, it's going to be totally hard and uncomfortable and, oh, how do I pull this up and all this other stuff. You need the opportunities to get used to it.
The other thing to keep in mind with what you just said as well, once you create that radius, and let's say people even went like 45 miles or whatever, there's an option in there where you can disable zip codes. So if there's particular areas that you just don't want to work, like maybe it's super sketchy area or it's really commercial and you don't want to sell commercial real estate, whatever it is, you can put multiples in there. So it'll keep that radius for you, but it'll shrink down.
Except for these zip codes.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Except for those zip codes.
No, you have to put your own in.
You have to put your own
You have to
that
put
you
your
don't
own
want.
in. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm 20 miles from your home, but I
Under
don't like this
settings,
zip code.
under your location.
So
Yeah.
cover that whole area except those zip codes.
You got it. Exactly.
So you go to the preferences
Yep.
and
Location or where your zip code
location
is.
has the miles, okay. And then you just go
So
to
she
zip
is an
code.
emerging
Yeah.
agent, I think?
Yeah, there's a
so
disabled zip
she
code.
may not have it.
Okay.
So emerging agents may not have that, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's
If-
causing problems because our MLS for my radius
Yeah.
goes to a different MLS south of me within like 20 miles, and north of me I'm licensed in Washington.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out how to quit getting those so I know I can't get into their MLS.
It'd be great if
Come
we
up
could just
and
do
talk
a
us
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I'll take a look,
We'll
yeah.
take care of it.
Yeah.
I know, wish we
Honest-
could draw it out.
Yeah, a map would actually be better, because some of these zip codes are like this huge area, and some zip codes are tiny little areas, so you have like 10 zip
Yeah,
codes
that's
in
been
there,
the
but
challenge.
it's,
Mhm.
yeah.
Right.
And I keep getting them, and I know it's Salem or close to Salem. Like, okay, I can't work that one. I'm ignoring it.
Yeah.
Can't do that one, and that's the majority of the ones I'm getting.
Yeah.
We'll
so,
take a look at yours.
Yeah, if you come up
Specifically.
after,
Yeah.
we should be able to get that fixed. Anything else?
Very good. So
All right.
next steps, of course, make sure you have signed up for OPCITY if you want to. Download the app and open up that area so you start getting leads. Let's play around with it and see if we can start getting more deals.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Hang on, Daisy.
What's your name?
Really so close to the criteria that we signed up. I don't know what brought me in as a marketing partner. I can't access. I want to access Washington. I'm getting nothing in Washington.
Right.
Probably want to download it on your phone.
So much paper MLS. I've done keep it. Work hard.
Right.
I had a buyer come in. I would just sign up again, but that's what they're seeing.
Thank
Right.
you.
Hi, yeah, absolutely.
How are you doing?
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in. And
Yes. Thank you very much for attending.
yes.
All right. I'm gonna change it.
So what we do do classes on that you're running?
Yeah, it does, yeah. Do you speak Spanish?
I really didn't know. I probably did that when I signed up.
Gotcha.
And then, see, I have a license number for Washington too. Does that need to be attached?
No.
Yeah, because whenever you make your radius, it'll prompt you.
So, the good news is, when you log in.
So this is gonna allow you to
have
my
weekly
other license
webinars
number at all.
for very basic.
Does show.
No, it doesn't matter. So I'll show you. So when I go,
so, well, Age of Marketing has their own every Wednesday. So, Commission Inc. is the other one that has property services and the lead in it. So, there's two different systems.
okay, so I put you in as experience there. So when you go in,
Thanks for all your help. Oh, look at you. Yeah. Look at you. So that's the name of the company.
now you'll be able to expand, yeah. And then the exclusion, that's right there. So just go in there and put them up here. Yeah, you might need to close it out and go back in, yeah.
If you don't know what it is after you pull it down, once you download, you should be able to send yourself a reset. Because it was set up for you. This is the thing where the new classes.
Because it goes to experience tools first, and then it goes to emerging. That's the secondary, so.
Exactly. Yeah. And I turn I'm probably getting email notifications right now.
Right.
So once you get that, you turn those off.
Is that a buyer? I was thinking of not buying in that area. It was in our regular MLS. It's weird because Southern Washington gives you an hour, but then just, I mean, Clifford sometimes is the other one. It's right this one.
All those would have been an email.
Am I doing well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good so far.
What else can I do better?
Are you doing Age of the Box yet? What's the new feature?
Austin and a couple other areas.
The calling and texting app. It looks like you got it in your Outlook. But when you're calling up the opposite girl, I mean, it's great. So when you're working with someone, you have to connect so if you're doing that, we'll record it back up with your screen.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
So I got that turned on,
So you've got it turned on.
How do you do it?
It should just be
And that makes the score go up.
Yeah.
It should.
And then when I get the score go up, I started off basically
Right.
and then they were telling me the algorithm just wasn't good. That opened that up. If you were to performance may run a higher score.
That's why I say just leave it all open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that now, getting a higher score is hard. Like higher score.
Over time, yeah. So your score's pretty good for everything you're doing.
Absolutely.
You'll probably see it jump a bit more of that.
Did you? Oh, excellent.
What'll really flip it over is closing in.
It's a win-win situation, right?
Yeah, once your person closes, you get to
There we go. Oh yeah, I was gonna say, we should have brought some spank down here, but yeah, it's relatively
and
new.
then,
Okay.
yeah, the higher price
I'm
points do
waiting
get
for spank. I still don't have it.
prioritized. So that's when you'll
So
see.
texting them and then letting them go if they're not really in reality. You know, that's not a problem.
What's your name?
It's not like a penalty thing.
Right.
So it's like, you know, because some policies are like, you gotta work a lead till you know.
Nope, not
So you
with
guys are
that.
not.
Again, we're just looking to see that you are able to close leads, so it's only an issue if you don't have any leads to close and you're releasing
But
them all back.
statistically, you're saying that the contact rates,
Let's say in the past
performance
week, you sent us
characteristics
three, and you clicked on them, which is good. So you might just want to try and up that a little bit, so faster you can go in.
Yeah.
You're working on the better ratios, the better numbers, and that's good.
Exactly. Yeah, so releasing is not something that should be.
Okay, so on
Especially
your
200,000,
iPhone,
it's an hour drive.
show you this. And you have the app on there?
We don't want you
And they're like,
wasting.
yeah, I don't know, maybe. Alright, what was your name?
Ian.
Adrian.
Nice
Thanks,
to meet you.
Ian.
Yeah.
If you
was talking to you on the phone when I called support.
Not me.
Somebody told me, and I thought, just double check.
Okay.
If I put
So,
on hold,
yeah.
then you don't follow up.
Correct.
And if I release them, you do follow up.
Yeah,
Because there's a
exactly.
couple I would keep on hold because I know they're deadline and stuff, and I've reached. What I've been doing though is bugging people every 7 days, all of them. So,
Yeah.
you know.
It gets tiring, right?
Well, and it's bad, so you're gonna say, well, you stopped calling me, I'm not there, so.
Right.
Now that I know they remain mine, that I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can always restore the result, or again, if we do it.
But that's what's gonna make it
That gives me a great.
So instead of having to swipe it quickly, when that lead comes in to skip a claim, you'll just be able to claim or skip it right away. So you don't have to swipe. It just makes it fast. Little things like that will just make it a little bit faster for you.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference because I didn't even miss it.
It was
really hard. No, that's great.
The connections we made.
Anything else? Well, you know, I think the other thing is you go meet somebody, the first thing is meet them, show them.
Yeah.
That's the problem I have. I meet people, they just don't like me.
Oh!
So
that's the same problem. No, but that should help. Your score's very good, so yeah. It should be.
So I think the first ones I got,
Oscar's Dallas, I've been doing that too.
you know, like there were, yeah, okay, so 28, closing 1 out of 28 is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
So that, you know, that's like, okay.
Yep.
Pretty good betting average.
You want to open up your price ranges too.
Yeah, I closed them back down because they were sitting on
Yeah.
So that's
Well, it's hard there too, because you're restricted orders.
Right.
For inspections.
A little bit here.
That's why I say do the zip codes. You can disable those zip codes, and you can always like do them seasonally as well. So if you don't want to work those zip codes that are in that particular area because it's icy, disable them, and then in the spring when it's nice, you can deactivate them.
Yeah, that's,
Last time I did that,
So yeah, if you want me to, I can go and change this for you, so it'll just make it a lot easier for you, but definitely go in there and disable those zip codes.
if they're buying, they'll sell.
Right, exactly, I get it.
Just sit them on, you know.
There you go, there you go.
Well, thank you guys for coming out.
And we'll,
What was your name?
Andrea.
You're our rep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can call you.
Absolutely. Well, bother Eric, and then if you can bother me. I know.
Well, thanks guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Good job.
Thanks.
Well, I think you'll appreciate me.
I did all of that. So are you flying back out or are you going to the?
Giving me a look, so.
Bring back. No, we get her down.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna put it on do not disturb, and it will go to date that. Yeah, it's just, you can say, I don't know. Is that the downtown area?
No, we're in Knoxville. Knoxville, that's where we're staying.
Knoxville,
Yeah,
okay. But you're flying back out. I was just wondering if you've been able to
And then the
explore.
snooze is.
I've lived in Austin for a while, so I'm just checking.
Yeah, we walked around, Knoxville a little bit, but we didn't get to any other areas.
No, it never. On the app,
There's
your
some cool
phone will
places,
tell you,
especially
hey,
when
how
you're
long
in
it is,
the
right?
area.
Yeah, we could just drive up to the mountains and stuff, so that was really cool.
Yes, that's what I was asking, because yesterday was really foggy. This morning was not as much. So.
Question.
Anyway, thank you, I appreciate it.
Is there a way within the app, I'm not familiar with the app.
There's more stuff I used to explore on that.
Yeah, is there a way within the app to set, for example?
You got bumped, how good.
Yeah, under notifications. So if you go under your settings, you'll see that there's a do not disturb, and you can select the times that you want to be able to receive those. Doesn't affect your score at all. So, like,
Because right now, I'm
right.
but I don't want those things coming in.
Gotcha. Yeah. Right, of course. Yeah, so just go under there and then do not disturb. Yeah.
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 And it doesn't impact your score or anything.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
I'm very
Yes.
apprehensive.
So, and if you don't have.
Don't be.
I had everything going smooth for the .com.
No.
They called me and said,
Oh, yeah.
we terminated your agreement with us. Now it's Op City.
Yeah.
Just after I got it, like, perfect.
Like you were booming, you were taking off.
Yeah.
I mean, I was scared. I had a complete
No, I know.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to say that.
So I thought.
Yeah, it's part of what we're testing currently since acquiring OPCITY.
Yeah. You know, are you guys in Salem yet? Because we're the truck cops will send you guys, or that I could purchase things down there.
You
So I had
should
a
be able to
question,
in Salem, I
clarification,
think.
somebody had asked me a question on. So, Lee comes in,
It's just Portland.
the husband, he's like, well, why
So
are
you
you
guys
buying the home? If you do.
You can still get
Because they're
OPCITY
gonna
in
be
Salem,
living
but
in
real
the
car.
Okay, but is there not one in the house? So it's like a mother looking for her son.
I just don't want to run into.
But if she's paying for it.
I
She's
can't
looking
promise
online,
in
that's
what
how the
extent.
link is sent
Oh, no,
over.
no,
Yeah,
I don't
and-
mind if it does.
No.
Oh, okay.
Because it's gonna be
I
the
don't want to
person
sign
that
up for these
purchases
and then have like a month later
Yeah.
say, oh.
And that's what some of the computers, just one of ours.
Right.
I'm not
was like,
aware of
there was
any
a mom that was helping them. She wasn't ever on
new
title.
markets running into that system.
Obviously, it may not have been wrong. When I
Right.
put it in there, they were.
What do you call
buying
that?
a house and moved on to the
I would probably get at least a
Right.
month notice,
Oh,
I
and we
think.
got down to
So
that
I-
$500, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, there
Yeah,
hasn't
so
been any
when Nikki
clarification
wrote the
about
check,
that.
she wrote 2,036 instead of
No
2,536.
coffee, I had
So, and Ian was telling us that they take the line and write it out, not
on
the actual
OPCITY
dollars
slips?
on the check.
So she was able to pull
Or
the
realty
realty clear for the
Fully
house?
clear, yeah.
Actually,
Additional
yeah.
costs, and then 35% of that goes to
Yeah,
OPCITY.
I'm hoping,
The 2,000, yeah, so the
I'm hoping
500.
next month we can much
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that happened there, so,
yeah.
but, very good. Did you find out any more about your local rep that I should be talking to?
Yes.
Things like that?
Steve Stebbins, our area VP, he manages all the West. He's going to be calling you either tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
He's actually he's hiring a brand new person for this area. So I think Steve's going to work out with that person while they're coming up with you. So you already passed
Yeah, I did,
on
yeah.
contact information. Yeah, so he'll Steve Stebbins today or sorry, tomorrow or Monday. He's just out of the office this week.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
yeah.
In there, so you solved that one. Trying to think, there was like 3 other ones that were out there. I don't know if any of them.
Well, Joe, I talked to, I'm working on his Washington issue,
Okay.
so it looks like it's a technical point.
Okay.
So I'm gonna deal with that as soon as I get back home.
Okay.
And then the accounting issues.
And is that just tied to him only, or is it really tied to Oregon and Washington? Because it seems like Oregon agents aren't getting Washington leads, which is what we want.
Yeah, I think it's just him specific.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'm gonna go into in depth with that one.
Okay.
It's gonna take me a little bit longer.
Okay. Sounds good. I don't think Mike talked to you, but he's stuck on a merging and he shouldn't be.
Mike?
So Mike
Okay.
Farrell.
Okay, I'll let them.
So it's one of those things, but he's dual licensed too, and I think he only gets Oregon leads.
Okay.
It's like, hey,
I'll take a look. Yep.
That's one of those things.
But that would also be because he's merging. So,
But you'd think you would get more, what would get where he's at, because he's based in Washington.
Gotcha.
That's his home zip code, and he's like, can't do any sorting or anything on it.
Yeah.
But he only gets Oregon leads.
okay, I'll take a look.
So, I mean, that's primarily where he does his business, at least, but he
Right.
does Washington too. I mean,
Okay.
so, something to think about.
I'll text you Farrell's name. Or do you already have it written down?
No. It's okay.
So, very good. Well,
That was not very trustworthy. Thanks, Eric.
Yep, so you guys are flying out today, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is Donnie, by the way.
Hey, Donnie.
You're gonna meet him on Tuesday.
All right. Yep, good seeing you guys again. Thanks for the presentation.
Call me if you need anything.
Yep.
I'm always around.
When you have other webinars, just announce them to us. We'll put it out on our system so that they can.
And I can always do live ones too. So if there's, like this kind of a situation, we can always jump, I can jump on or
Yeah,
whatever.
we'd love to see who's all involved and who's not, and get on there and see. Obviously, it sounds like we've got like 40 or 50 agents so far.
Right.
Opportunity for add more, so
Yeah.
we'll see, but hopefully we can find at least more lead volume and
For sure.
That's
close
right.
more deals, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah. So, sounds good, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.